The arena hung silently above a dying orange star, its metal skeleton orbiting in perfect stillness. Below, hundreds of alien engineers gathered, their forms flickering with bioluminescent patterns that reflected the star's dim, dying light. Towers of humming machinery stretched toward the void, cables weaving like veins, pulsing with energy. In the center, a colossal hologram shimmered, the blueprint of a reactor so complex, so volatile, that even the oldest alien minds had abandoned it decades ago. "This cannot be done," a Thrin engineer muttered, their three eyes narrowing. "Even a century of work would collapse the core." The Galactic Council's voice echoed through the arena, a low hum that vibrated against every metal surface. "The project is impossible, yet we offer this challenge. Anyone who completes the reactor in under 1 month will gain ultimate recognition. The galaxy will remember them as the one who achieved the impossible." A ripple of murmurs ran through the crowd. Skeptical glances, whispered calculations, and outright laughter filled the space. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows. Captain Eli Vance. He was small by alien standards, humanly so, yet his gaze held something the crowd couldn't name: calm, certainty, and a spark of defiance. His uniform was simple, practical. No holographic insignias, no flashing lights, no symbols of status. Just a human, standing alone in a room full of creatures who considered his species primitive. "Do you really think a human could manage this?" a Vozari engineer hissed, their voice scraping like metal on stone. Eli didn't reply. He didn't need to. His hands hovered over the console, scanning the floating schematics, every line of code and energy calculation etched into his mind in seconds. Where others saw chaos, he saw structure. Where others saw failure, he saw possibilities. The first challenge was understanding the alien technology itself. Machines defied gravity, moving and reshaping at a thought. Energy conduits pulsed with a rhythm that could melt unprotected circuits. Every step required precision beyond human intuition, or so they assumed. Eli bent over the nearest console, fingers flying as he traced the energy pathways, eyes reflecting the soft golden glow of the hologram. Sparks erupted from a nearby prototype, throwing the crowd into momentary panic, but Eli moved closer, calm, examining the anomaly as though it were nothing more than a minor ripple in a pond. Aliens whispered among themselves. "Watch him fail," one hissed. "He won't last a day." But Eli wasn't there to last a day. He was there to change their expectations. With a few quick adjustments, the prototype stabilized, emitting a soft hum that seemed to echo from the core of the arena itself. The whispers died, replaced by silence, the kind that stretches like a taut wire, waiting to snap. The council's holographic gaze turned toward him. "Human," it said, voice void of emotion. "Your species has never achieved such feats. Are you certain you wish to attempt the impossible?" Eli's voice was steady, carrying through the arena. "I don't call it impossible until I've tried." A ripple of astonishment moved through the audience. Some gasped, some stared, dumbfounded. The impossible, the thing that had intimidated the galaxy for decades, had a challenger. And he was human. As the dying star cast long, flickering shadows across the arena, Eli took his first steps toward the massive humming reactor. Every eye followed him, every mind questioned, every calculation of doubt was about to be tested. Because in this arena, where centuries of alien expertise had failed, one human was about to prove that impossible was just another word for not yet attempted. The workshop seemed alive. Towers of machinery stretched toward the ceiling like metallic trees, their circuits pulsing with the eerie glow of alien energy. The air vibrated with the low hum of power conduits, and sparks danced along the floor as if eager to test their new master. Hundreds of alien engineers circled the room, their eyes, some round, some multifaceted, some glowing, tracking every human movement. Every breath Eli took seemed amplified, every gesture under scrutiny. "Observe carefully," hissed a Vozari engineer, their thin fingers drumming against the console. "He has no idea what he's attempting." Eli, unshaken, moved between the machines with deliberate calm. He didn't speak, he didn't hurry. To an untrained eye, he looked like a man merely wandering, taking in the chaos. But every step, every glance, was calculated. where aliens saw an insurmountable tangle of wires and pulsing energy conduits. Eli saw patterns, a rhythm, a flow, a logic only someone willing to abandon convention could detect. The first challenge was understanding the alien technology itself. Gravity-defying modules twisted mid-air. Energy streams wove in unpredictable arcs, threatening to ignite anything within a meter. The aliens had spent decades perfecting protocols, following rules etched into their systems for centuries. Eli, by contrast, questioned everything. He poked, prodded, sketched rapid adjustments on a floating holopad, and the modules responded in ways the aliens hadn't anticipated. "Impossible," muttered a Thrin engineer, their voice shaking. "No one, no species, could manipulate the energy flow like that." Eli didn't flinch. He leaned over a particularly temperamental conduit, a ribbon of violet energy snapping unpredictably. He traced its path with his fingers, letting intuition guide him. Sparks flared, smoke hissed, and for a heartbeat, the crowd froze, expecting failure. Then the conduit stabilized, pulsing smoothly, its erratic pattern replaced by a steady hum. The room held its breath. Aliens whispered urgently to each other, attempting to decipher what had just happened. Some began taking notes, wary of admitting interest. Others shook their heads, certain the human success was a fluke. Eli's hands flew across the holo controls, reconfiguring modules that no alien engineer had dared touch. Each adjustment carried the suspense of a high-wire act. Miscalculate, and the reactor could collapse, flooding the workshop with energy that could shred metal and flesh alike. But Eli moved with a fluidity born of confidence and curiosity. The Council's holographic presence loomed above, eyes narrowing. "Human," it said, voice echoing through the chamber. "Your species has never integrated alien technology at this level. Proceed carefully." Eli glanced up, meeting the gaze of the Council's projection. "I don't believe in limits," he replied, his voice calm but firm. A sudden surge of energy shot from a misaligned module, arcs of light slashing dangerously across the floor. Aliens froze, ready to intervene. Eli, without hesitation, stepped into the fray, sliding his hands over the conduits. The energy pulsed against him, almost resisting, and then, astonishingly, bent to his adjustments. The module hummed in perfect synchronization with the others. Gasps echoed around the room. Whispers turned to stunned silence. Some aliens began muttering doubts, questioning decades of rigid methodology. Eli had not just survived, he had tamed what they deemed untouchable. Even as curiosity mixed with disbelief, tension crackled in the air. Every alien in the workshop realized this human was not just capable, he was unpredictable, dangerous to their assumptions, and terrifyingly efficient. Eli's calm, methodical approach had rewritten the rules of possibility in their minds. And yet, he remained focused, moving from one module to the next, leaving a trail of stabilized systems in his wake. Each success ratcheting the suspense higher, making every spectator question what else this human could achieve. The reactor's heart thrummed with unpredictable energy, sending ripples across the floor in golden arcs that danced like lightning caught in slow motion. Every alien engineer in the room stepped back instinctively, their forms casting elongated shadows under the pulsating light. Some clutched data tablets tightly, others simply froze, unable to look away. The hum of the machinery grew louder, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to reach into the very bones of the arena. Eli Vance moved closer, calm as ever. His fingers hovered above the interface, scanning the patterns of energy with a precision that made even the most seasoned aliens flinch. Each conduit seemed to pulse with its own personality, resisting control in some moments and yielding in others. Where alien engineers saw chaos, Eli saw rhythm, a logic in the madness that no species had dared to exploit. Suddenly, a ribbon of violet energy arced dangerously across the chamber, scorching a console and sending sparks flying. Aliens screamed, retreating to the edges of the room. But Eli didn't hesitate. With a swift motion, he adjusted a series of stabilizers, his hands almost dancing over the controls. The violet energy bent, flowing into the system smoothly, as if tamed by sheer will. A collective gasp filled the room. The reactor pulsed brighter, now emitting a soft golden glow that painted awe across alien faces. For the first time in decades, a human had achieved what no alien engineer could: controlled the energy without catastrophic failure. Whispers spread through the crowd. Did he just do that? A Thrin engineer murmured, disbelief in every syllable. Impossible. But he did it. The council's hologram shifted slightly, its glowing eyes studying Eli. Human, you have stabilized the initial core, it intoned. This was not expected. Continue, but caution is advised. Eli nodded slightly, his expression unreadable. He didn't flinch at their warnings. Instead, he leaned over the next module, fingers flying as he traced intricate energy flows, connecting circuits that no alien had dared link. Sparks flickered, machines groaned under the sudden adjustments, and for a moment, the entire workshop seemed on the verge of collapse. The tension was palpable, thick enough to feel on the skin. And then, it worked. A surge of light arced across the reactor, harmonizing with every module. The pulsing energy stabilized, no longer erratic or threatening. For a heartbeat, the arena was silent except for the steady hum of the now functioning reactor. The glow reflected in alien eyes, wide with astonishment, as murmurs began to rise. This human wasn't just competent, he was revolutionary. Even as Eli's victory became apparent, a subtle undercurrent of tension persisted. The reactor was stable, for now, but each module held a secret of its own, a potential failure waiting for the wrong touch. Aliens exchanged glances, some in awe, some in growing fear. The realization sank in. The human had not just solved part of the problem, he had rewritten the approach entirely. Remarkable, whispered a Vozari engineer, almost to himself. No species, no one, could have done this so quickly. Eli straightened, eyes scanning the reactor like a predator assessing a territory. He allowed himself a small smile, quiet, controlled, but unmistakably satisfied. He had proven the first step. Humans were capable of greatness, even in the face of what the galaxy deemed impossible. But the workshop remained tense. The aliens, accustomed to centuries of slow, cautious methodology, had no idea how Eli would proceed next. Every adjustment he made, every solution he applied, seemed to defy their expectations, leaving them both inspired and terrified. Suspense hung thick in the air, like a storm waiting to break. In that glowing chamber, amid the hum of the reactor and the silent awe of the spectators, a single truth became clear. The impossible was no longer untouchable, and the galaxy was about to find out that one human could achieve in days what it had failed to accomplish for centuries. The golden hum of the stabilized reactor echoed through the vast chamber, a soft, almost triumphant pulse against the silence of disbelief. Alien engineers exchanged stunned glances, some beginning to whisper in awe, others frowning with unease. But amid the calm, Eli sensed something that the others hadn't yet noticed. A subtle tremor beneath the floor, almost imperceptible, yet deliberate. His instincts flared. In the human world, danger often arrived quietly. And here, in a room full of centuries-old rivalries and pride, sabotage was far more likely than genuine collaboration. A low hiss echoed from the corner of the arena, followed by a flicker in the reactor's energy ribbon. Sparks jumped erratically along one conduit, threatening to destabilize the entire system. Eli didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the anomaly, eyes narrowing as he traced the source. A hidden device, compact but lethal, hooked into the main energy grid. The aliens gasped. "Intruder! Sabotage!" shouted a Thrin engineer, their three eyes widening in alarm. Some instinctively backed away, unsure whether to intervene or flee. Eli crouched beside the device, examining it quickly. Its design was alien, yet primitive in its logic, a trap meant to exploit assumptions about the reactor's flow. Clever, he muttered under his breath, but predictable. A surge of energy from the trap flared, arcs of light snapping dangerously close to the floor. Sparks hissed and danced like miniature lightning storms. Time seemed to slow. Every alien in the chamber watched, frozen, as Eli reached out with steady hands, manipulating the circuits with a precision no one thought possible. "Human. You cannot," a Vozari engineer began, but the words died as Eli flipped a hidden panel and rerouted the energy flow. The trap's pulse collapsed harmlessly into the system, absorbed rather than amplified. The reactor hummed steadily once more, its golden glow even brighter, as if acknowledging the human's mastery. Silence fell over the room, broken only by the rapid breaths of those too shocked to speak. Eli stood slowly, scanning the crowd. Eyes followed him, some wide with awe, some narrowing in resentment. From the shadows, a figure detached itself, tall, sleek, moving with deliberate stealth. Another attempt. Eli's heart rate didn't spike, but his focus sharpened. He pivoted, observing the intruder, a rival engineer who had clearly hoped to discredit him, to ensure failure and maintain the galaxy's assumptions about human limitations. "You think this will stop me?" Eli said calmly, voice carrying through the tense chamber. The figure froze, startled by the lack of fear, then darted back into the shadows, leaving nothing but a faint trace of energy residue. Whispers spread like wildfire. The human. He sees through deception. No one survives this long with such composure. He understands us. Eli returned to the reactor, fingers moving over the controls once more. The anomaly had been neutralized, but the message was clear. Every success came with new dangers. In the galaxy, the impossible wasn't just a challenge, it was a target, and humans, so long underestimated, became lightning rods for envy and fear. He adjusted the reactor's modules, reinforcing the energy pathways, anticipating further interference. The golden hum now carried a note of defiance, an unspoken warning. Sabotage might come, but Eli Vance would meet it, unflinching, with intellect and courage. As the alien council watched in a mixture of admiration and trepidation, Eli allowed a small, quiet smile. The first stage of the reactor was complete, stabilized, and secure, for now. But the challenge was far from over. Suspense hung thick in the air, electric as the reactor itself, promising that the next threat would test not just skill, but ingenuity, courage, and the human ability to defy expectation. The chamber was alive with anticipation. Every panel, every conduit, every flicker of energy seemed to hold its breath. The reactor hummed steadily, golden waves of light reflecting across the faces of alien engineers. They whispered among themselves, eyes darting toward Eli as if he were a phenomenon they couldn't comprehend. Yet even in their awe, a tangible tension lingered. This was only the beginning. The council's hologram projected high above the arena, its multiple eyes narrowing. "Human. The first phase is stable," it said, voice echoing across the cavernous chamber. "But the final barrier remains untested. Only the most skilled may attempt integration." Eli's jaw tightened. He glanced at the massive interface before him, a labyrinth of alien technology, circuits twisting like serpents, energy streams colliding in a chaotic symphony. Any mistake here could trigger a chain reaction, devastating the reactor and everyone in the chamber. The stakes were higher than ever. Every breath, every flicker of light heightened the suspense. "Impossible," muttered a Thrin engineer, voice trembling as she observed the interface. "No one has ever completed this final stage. No species has even survived it." Eli ignored them, focusing on the challenge. Where others saw risk, he saw patterns, hidden flows of energy that could be coaxed into harmony. He traced a hand along a volatile module, letting intuition guide him through the chaos. Sparks danced dangerously close to the floor, energy arcing in unpredictable curves, yet he moved with calculated precision. Suddenly, a surge shot through the reactor, brighter and more violent than any before. Aliens recoiled, shielding themselves instinctively. The golden glow flickered, the hum rising to a harsh, screaming pitch. Eli didn't flinch. He leaned into the surge, hands flying over the controls, rerouting energy, merging streams, anticipating the reactor's every whim. Sparks lashed against his arms, but the human's calm eyes reflected neither fear nor hesitation, only focus. "Impossible." "How?" whispered the council's projection, its voice tinged with disbelief. "No human, no species, can manage this." The surge intensified, threatening to tear through the reactor. But Eli's adjustments began to stabilize the storm. Circuits that had never aligned now pulsed in perfect synchrony. The chaos bent, twisted, and then, astonishingly, yielded. Golden light spread evenly across the modules. Energy harmonized into a smooth, resonant rhythm. A stunned silence followed. Aliens stared, jaws slack, eyes wide with awe. Some whispered in reverence. Others shook their heads in disbelief. The Thrin engineer who had doubted him moments ago took a cautious step forward, mouth open, as if trying to form words that wouldn't suffice. Eli stepped back from the controls, letting the reactor pulse with steady power. The golden hum now carried an unmistakable tone. Triumph. He had broken the final barrier, achieving what no species had in centuries. But even in victory, tension remained. The Council's projections studied him intently. "Human," it said slowly, "your species has accomplished what we deemed impossible. But consider this. Every success breeds envy, every innovation draws attention and danger." Eli's gaze swept across the chamber, taking in the awestruck engineers, the trembling hands, the wide eyes. He allowed a small smile, quiet yet resolute. He had proven that courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to defy expectation could topple barriers that had seemed insurmountable. The moral reverberated as strongly as the reactor's hum. The galaxy underestimated humans for one reason. They assumed limits where none existed. Eli had shattered that assumption in mere days. As whispers of astonishment spread, a subtle tension lingered, hinting that the galaxy was only beginning to grasp the consequences of a human mind unbound by fear or convention. News of Eli Vance's achievement spread faster than any communication array could handle. Across the galaxy, every council chamber, research hub, and military command received alerts. A human had done the impossible. The golden hum of the stabilized reactor became a symbol, whispered in awe and fear alike. In the sprawling capital of the Thrin Empire, council members paced frantically. Holographic projections of Eli's work hovered in the air, circuits glowing, energy arcs frozen mid-flow for analysis. "This human," one elder hissed, eyes narrowing. "He challenges centuries of knowledge. Our supremacy is threatened." In the Vozari quadrants, whispers turned into debates, then arguments, then outright panic. Scholars who had dismissed humans as primitive now argued furiously over the implications. Some wanted to observe, others demanded immediate containment. Every faction felt a tremor of fear ripple through their hierarchy. Meanwhile, in the observation chamber above the reactor, Eli sensed the shifting currents, not of energy, but of intent. Every alien present had a new perspective. Admiration mixed uneasily with jealousy. Respect collided with suspicion. The tension was almost tangible, a weight pressing down on every shoulder. A sudden alert flared on the reactor's interface, a minor anomaly detected in a peripheral module. Eli's eyes narrowed. It wasn't a malfunction. It was deliberate. Someone, somewhere, was already trying to interfere with his work. The realization struck him like lightning. Success had drawn attention, and attention could be dangerous. The chamber doors hissed as a delegation of high-ranking aliens entered, their presence commanding silence. "Human," intoned a council envoy, voice rigid and formal. "Your accomplishments are unprecedented. However, your methods defy established protocol. Some view your work as a threat, not a triumph." Eli's gaze met theirs evenly. "I didn't come here to conform," he said softly, yet every word carried weight. "I came to solve what others couldn't. Success isn't bound by protocol. It's bound by results." The room shifted uncomfortably. Aliens exchanged wary glances. Some were inspired. Others bristled with indignation. Whispers of rebellion, debates of containment, and murmurs of intrigue threaded through the observation gallery. Suspense hung thick, as if the chamber itself awaited the next move. From the shadows of the council, a Thrin strategist spoke, voice low but sharp. "If this human's work spreads, our authority diminishes. We must act subtly. We cannot afford direct confrontation yet, but we can plant seeds of doubt, push rivals against him, force mistakes." Eli's eyes caught the hint of danger before it fully formed. In a galaxy where rules were written for centuries, humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was the true threat. He knew admiration could quickly turn into resentment, praise into sabotage. Every step forward now required not just technical mastery, but political acumen. The golden reactor glowed steadily, but the tension in the chamber had shifted. It was no longer just a test of skill, it was a test of perception, influence, and survival. The galaxy had recognized a human capable of defying limits, and that recognition came with a price. As Eli stood there, calm and poised, he understood the truth. Brilliance does not exist in a vacuum. Every success invites scrutiny. Every achievement draws envy. And in a universe that underestimated humans for centuries, the next challenge would not be technological. It would be political, strategic, and potentially lethal. The chamber was silent, yet the air vibrated with anticipation. Every alien eye remained fixed on Eli as he approached the reactor, not as a student or an outsider, but as a force rewriting what the galaxy believed possible. Whispers of envy and admiration circled like predatory birds, each faction calculating how to benefit or sabotage this human prodigy. Eli's mind, however, was already several steps ahead. Humans thrived where others feared to tread. Adaptability was instinct, improvisation a weapon, and intuition a skill honed across countless challenges. He scanned the room, noting subtle tensions, the flicker of unease in a Thrin envoy's eyes, the way a Ozari engineer hesitated near the energy conduits. Suspicion and ambition were already colliding in patterns only a human could read with such precision. The Council's hologram spoke, its voice formal, measured, but carrying an undercurrent of tension. Human, you have exceeded all expectations, yet your methods leave room for unpredictable consequences. How do you propose to stabilize integration across all factions? Eli smiled faintly. By turning competition into collaboration, he said, voice calm but commanding. Every faction here has strengths. Individually they falter. Together, they can create something far greater than any species alone. He moved to the central interface, fingers dancing over controls, rerouting energy, and initiating protocols that the alien engineers hadn't dared attempt. Sparks leapt along conduits, golden arcs weaving like living threads of light, and the room held its collective breath. Every misstep could trigger disaster, but Eli's instincts, sharpened by human unpredictability, turned chaos into advantage. Suddenly, a ripple of resistance surged from the Council. Some factions bristled, uncomfortable with the human directing their expertise. A covert attempt to override his integration sequence sent a shock through the system. A test, a challenge, and a trap all at once. Eli reacted instantly, rerouting energy through alternative circuits, isolating the sabotage, and using it to strengthen the system rather than collapse it. Sparks flared, modules flickered, and for a moment the reactor seemed to teeter on the edge. But then, golden light flooded the chamber, steady and resolute. Gasps and murmurs erupted. He predicted it, whispered a Thrin engineer. No species could turn sabotage into advantage so seamlessly. The Council projection remained unreadable, but Eli's calculated risk had shifted the balance. Rival factions now faced a choice: obstruct the human and risk failure, or follow his lead and share in unprecedented success. Suspense hung like an electric charge. Every breath was weighted with anticipation. Eli didn't stop. He implemented a final, audacious integration, melding energy flows from multiple factions into a unified, harmonized pulse. The golden hum swelled into a resonant symphony, light streaming across the chamber, reflecting in awestruck eyes. The impossible had not only been achieved, it had been elevated, transformed by human ingenuity and fearlessness. The Council remained silent, absorbing the implications. Alien pride, fear, and admiration collided. Eli's gaze swept the room, unwavering as he realized the truth. Humans didn't just solve problems. They leveraged challenges, turning enemies into collaborators, obstacles into opportunities. The moral crystallized as clearly as the glowing reactor. Ingenuity paired with adaptability was more potent than raw power or tradition. In a universe that had underestimated humans for centuries, the advantage was now undeniable. The chamber was no longer just a test site. It had become a stage for a galactic revelation. Light cascaded from the reactor in waves of gold and silver, rippling across the faces of alien engineers, diplomats, and council members alike. Every creature present felt it. The impossible had been achieved, and it bore the unmistakable signature of humanity. Eli stood at the heart of the room, calm and composed, yet acutely aware of the tension simmering just beneath the surface. His victory was monumental, but it was fragile. Admiration was paired with envy, awe with suspicion. The galaxy had witnessed a human shatter limits it had taken millennia to define, and now every faction would respond in its own way. Suddenly, a council envoy from the Thrin Empire stepped forward, projecting authority, yet trembling slightly. "Human," it said, voice echoing in the cavernous hall. "Your accomplishments are unprecedented. But consider this. Power untempered draws danger. The galaxy will test you." Eli's eyes met theirs steadily. "Then, let them test. Humans don't just face challenges. We transform them." A flicker ran through the reactor, a subtle warning signal. But Eli anticipated it instantly. He moved with precision, adjusting energy flows, rerouting circuits, stabilizing the system before any failure could occur. Every observer gasped. What they had seen as unpredictable and risky had become controlled brilliance. Outside the chamber, news spread at faster-than-light speeds. Across star systems, ships paused in orbit, scholars debated in urgent forums, and generals reconsidered their strategies. Humans were no longer a curiosity. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species capable of feats previously deemed impossible. Suspense rippled through the galaxy like a storm warning. But Eli's triumph was more than technical. It was symbolic. He had proven that ingenuity, courage, and adaptability could overcome barriers even the most advanced civilizations considered unbreakable. In that moment, the galaxy's hierarchy shifted imperceptibly but irrevocably. Every faction recalculated the value of underestimating humans. Then, quietly, Eli turned to the engineers and council members. The galaxy assumes limits based on what's familiar. Fear and respect often arise from the same misunderstanding. Humans don't claim supremacy. We earn it through effort, creativity, and resolve. A Thrin scholar, previously skeptical, whispered, almost to herself, "We always measured humans by what we thought was possible. We never imagined this." Suspense lingered even as awe settled in. Eli knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would watch, test, and challenge. But humans had now proven that the impossible was simply a threshold waiting to be crossed. As the golden light of the reactor reflected across every face in the chamber, the moral became undeniable. Courage, ingenuity, and relentless determination could redefine perception, break barriers, and inspire awe across even the most advanced civilizations. Eli had not only achieved the impossible, he had reshaped the galaxy's understanding of what humans could accomplish. The chamber erupted into cautious applause, alien eyes wide, whispers of impossible and remarkable mixing in the air. Eli allowed a small, confident smile. Humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever, not through domination, but through brilliance, resilience, and the courage to challenge every expectation.